In Victoria, England, death was everywhere. Disease, accidents, and childbirth meant that losing a loved one was common. But the Victorians had a strange solution for grief. They took photographs of the dead. It sounds eerie today, but back then, it was a way to remember someone forever. Photography was still new and expensive in the 1800s. Most families could only afford one photograph of a person in their lifetime. So when a loved one died, especially a child, families would visit a photographer to capture their image. Sometimes the only image that they would ever have. The photographer's job was tricky. The person had to be posed to look natural. Sometimes they would prop the eyes open with wires or paint them in later. Hands were arranged carefully. Even smiles were sometimes created with subtle tricks. Families weren't horrified by this practice. They considered it a way to honor the dead. Most post-mortem photographs showed the deceased posed in chairs, lying in beds, or even in family portraits with living relatives. Some photographers specialized in this work. In fact, it became a legitimate branch of Victorian photography. They knew exactly how to make a deceased person appear at peace, almost lifelike. In some cases, photographers would even dress infants in fine clothes, cradle them in special stands, and photograph them as if they were asleep. To the family, the photos weren't creepy. They were precious keepsakes. Historians today look at these images and are often fascinated by the cultural differences. The Victorians had a very different relationship with death. They saw it as a part of life, not something to hide from. These photographs were displayed in homes, cherished in albums, and sometimes even carried in lockets. People who survived often kept these images for decades, remembering those they had lost. It was also practical. Life expectancy was lower, death was sudden, and often unavoidable. A photograph was a way to freeze someone in time, a permanent memory in an age before home cameras and smartphones. There are thousands of surviving examples in museums and archives today. Some images show adults in their chairs, hands folded. Some show children posed in tiny beds or surrounded by toys. Occasionally, photographers use creative techniques to make the images more lifelike. Multiple exposures, painted eyes, and hidden supports were all common. Families treated these portraits with reverence. They were symbols of memory and love, not morbidity. Sorry, that was a tough word. In fact, for a family, it was considered a comfort to see a serene image of their loved one, to hold on to something permanent even after death. Today, these photographs are both fascinating and haunting. They reveal how differently society once approached death. They remind us that grief has always been a human struggle and that people have always sought ways to remember those they've lost. Some images feel unsettling to modern eyes, but for the Victorians, they were beautiful, inanimate keepsakes. They were proof that love doesn't end with life and memory can endure, even when the body does not. So, the next time you scroll through old photographs, remember, in Victorian times, some of the smiles in those photos weren't of the living. They were of people who passed, immortalized forever in glass, carefully posed and lovingly remembered. And in a way, it was their way of holding on to life even after death. So what say you? Is it creepy or is it loving? Let me know in the comments.